Hello everyone, so yeah, this video is really unscripted, but I have a bunch of thoughts I'd like to share with you in regards to the very origins of text editing. So I'm really deep now, I'm digging really deep into this very particular roots behind text editing. And for those of you who has been following this channel for quite a bit of time probably know that I've been doing a hell lot of toy text editors. But anyway, so every time I was doing a text editor or a single video or even the recent tutorial series on how to build your own one in Go programming language, I was like every next iteration I was trying to get an idea like how this was originally done, like where it comes from. And yeah, so I just wanted to share some I don't know, summary on the particular point I came to, and where I'm currently at, and where am I supposed to be exploring further on. So let's say that we have two ways of how to interact with software tools. It doesn't really matter whether we're talking about the tools for programmers or like for other people. It doesn't matter. Let's take programmers. That's just easier. So as a programmer, the primary tool that you are using is a text editor, right? Because if you want to write some code, well, basically there are two tools. The first one is the text editor, and the second one is the programming language, no matter whether that's the interpreter, the compiler, or like whatever. So but without the text editor, you will not be able to use the programming language, right? So like text editor is primary. And two approaches. So the GUI, graphical user interface is the first approach, and command line is the second one. And we're not even talking about like about this in regards to operating systems. Like well, obviously, usually Windows is more likely to deal with GUIs and Linux with the command line, but you can also use command line on Windows. You can also use GUI on Linux. It's not about this really. It's not about the clash between the operating systems and habits and whatever. This is about the prior user experience. And let's say I just want to give you a particular example. So probably this makes a little bit more sense, like in regards to what am I trying to say here, what am I talking about. So you know, Vim text editor, right? So sometimes when a guy discovers Vim for the very first time ever and tries to follow the Vim tutor, for instance, and he's like, what the hell is this? Like, it's so uncomfortable to use. And people say that I would be productive when I'm using this tool, but why? It's so uncomfortable. So I just try to explain where the shock is coming from, and like questions like whether you should like switch to to Vim from this code or something like that. So the idea is very simple. For those of you who has used to graphical user interfaces and came from like VS Code or Sublime Text backgrounds, most likely working on Windows, things like that. In that case, things like selecting text with mouth or with Shift key and the arrow keys, and Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V to do copy pasting, Ctrl-X to cut things, Ctrl-F to find, Ctrl-G usually to find next. And so on. Ctrl-Z to undo changes, Ctrl-Y to redo changes. So all those key bindings, while they usually they are tied with this GUIs, because that's the standard. That's how you will do things in like. Doesn't matter whether this is the desktop operations or the web application, because in the web browser the text area widget is also using these exact key bindings. You can still do Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V in whatever text area widget, if only that's not the customly created one. So this GUI-based editors and GUI-based workflows, I would say, they are dominant in today's world. And I don't say this is bad or like good. It just happens. But if you try, let's say, so Vim is not, I'm not advertising Vim, I'm not a Vim user myself, but that's just a good example, because when you're trying to switch from, say, again, VS Code or Sublime Text to Vim, those issues you are encountering are happening not because Vim is weird, but because it comes from absolutely different backgrounds and environment as opposed to those you get used to. And talking about these environments and these backgrounds is very essential if you want to truly understand like why, say, Vim, for instance, works exactly the way it does. So we need to bear in mind that Vim is not the first iteration. So before Vim there was an editor called X, and X is a line-based editor, line-oriented editor. So it didn't have this sort of a visual thing on the terminal where you could navigate through the screen. So well, just probably to give you an idea, so if I just say, let's say Vim, and I'm going to be exploring the source code of the text editor, which we are supposed to be talking quite soon. So here, for instance, so this is Vim, so you can visually explore the source just like you used to do with whatever GUI based editor, right? But not so with X. And if I just escape from here, I just escape and I say, for instance, X and add.c, then suddenly you don't see quite pretty anything, and it's not really clear what's going on, but actually you still can sort of see what is there. But this is already it's not a visual mode anymore, this is the sort of a command mode, and in X it's done quite pretty nicely. So unlikely it's predecessor, forget the one that goes before the add, unlike before the X. So this is the way. So you can also use X for text editing, but we're not going to be covering this because even X is not the original thing. So let's just escape from here as well. So the original thing this X and Vim editors were built on top of, called add, and we are exactly exploring the source code of this editor. So if I simply say add and then add.c, right? So I want to invoke the prompt so that I know whether I'm in the command mode or in the mode to, like, say, append text or something. And also I want the extended help messages. Now if I just hit enter, you see like nothing happens, and you might be wondering what the hell is going on here. But if you say 1, go into the very first line and then hit enter, it's not formatted as nicely as in X, but the general idea is quite pretty clear, I believe, because exactly you have these particular lines. So let's say you want to examine line number 100, line 100, it's empty line, okay, 101, there is something, okay. So you can also use brain command, and now we are stepping into the territory of the actual commands, because if you don't have this visual instruments, then how on earth are you supposed to be first question is how on earth are you supposed to be exploring whatever is available in the source code? Then the question is how likely would you make some edits and so on. So let's start from the very beginning. So if I say like from the first element and to the very last element, I just want to print everything is there, and it gives me the entire source code. But if I don't use mouse and the scroll button, in this case I cannot scroll up. I can obviously I can do this now, but I will not be doing this. So another way to limit the output is just say, let's say from 1, and I have 24 rows in my terminal, so from 1 to say 23, I just want to print everything, and this gives me the very beginning of the file. If I want to do the same with line numbers, for instance, so 123, just say n, and it gives me exactly the same thing but with line numbers, and also line wrapping is available here. You see, like obviously, like due to the nature of the terminal, like how it works in the standard way, we have this wrappings here, which may not always be that sort of cool. Now let's say I want to scroll further on. Well, add does have some specific shortcut for scrolling, but let's say it doesn't, and just to do this the pure command way. So we have the following feature. If I say dot and I just print, so there is nothing because this dot is now the empty line. But if I say dot the current line and comma, and from dot and plus 23 more lines, it gives me another, yeah, I just want to dot and dot plus 23 line numbers. So here it prints me another chunk. So this is how I can scroll. If I just repeat this, I say dot plus 23 and line numbers. So this is the way how I can keep scrolling through the document. So let's say now I see that I would like sort of want to add some commentary, for instance. So let's say line number 85. So if I want to add some line there, I just can do the following thing. So in this case, let's just do 85 insert, and we're just going into the insert mode. So I say tab here. Yeah, that's the better way of doing things. So return from the function. Yeah, I messed up with I tried to do the way how it's done in set, but yeah, it's not working in add. Set is a stream editor, add is just an interactive editor. Return from the function, but well, okay, let's say like this, and I say dot to add to end the input, and to 80. Yeah, I already feel a little bit lost here, and I just want to print the new lines. Okay. Return from function. Yeah, here we go. Return from function. But yeah, I don't know which line number it is. So yeah, let's say 82. Let's say 100 and play print the line numbers. 80. Yeah, return from the function is line number 85. So I definitely made a mistake here. So if I want to check the, I want to change this, I can say 85, and then I say substitute command, and I want to substitute the return. I don't even need to specify the entire thing, and I want to substitute it with two characters like this, but I'm not sure. I probably should escape them, and then return, and here we go. And I just want to print the line 85. Yeah, return from the function. Yeah, good. So now if I say again, like from 80 to 100 and oh my god, and yeah, return from the function. Yeah, line 85. Notice the line 85 return from the function. So I just added the commentary. So this is not as, as simple as you could have done this within the like the visual text editor like Vim, or like those coming from the GUI background. So it's not really that simple, but essentially I just made a simple edit to the function. This has been involving both like inserting some text, navigating through the file, and doing the follow-up error correction. And like the substitute command is probably most widely used one within the editor. So this is absolutely different paradigm as opposed, say, to even Vim, right? Because not many Vim users are also users of add, let's say. So you can use Vim and basically have no idea about these sort of commands, and all the commands you use in Vim might be, I'm not claiming anything, but maybe you just say write and then the file name, or read, or whatever. So just simple commands. But now these commands that do deal with blind numbers, for instance. So I just want to show you one little interesting thing now. Well, probably you're aware of this, maybe you are not, but when I discovered this was really interesting in terms of the architecture and the building blocks behind the Vim, and understanding of this architecture and these building blocks actually helps me a lot in understanding like the historical evolution of how in particular this text editing principles has been developed over the years. Right, so I just want to quit from here, and it tells me that warning buffer is modified. I don't care, I don't want to save changes, so I just quit from here. And now open the same file with Vim at C. Now it feels much better. So it's like I'm scrolling to the line number 80, back to the same line number 80. Where is this? Yeah, it's over in here. Okay, so here was the thing. So how can I do this in Vim? I can just press I, go into insert mode. Could probably even use the capital I, and just to add the new line. No, it just goes to where. Okay, so just essentially I can just say yes, return from the function. And yeah, this obviously already, and just go back, this obviously already feels like a great improvement, because you sort of visually do this thing and feel absolutely satisfied about this. And again, just going back to those users trying to switch from the GUI to things like Vim. So for you, it's not natural to have modes. So in Vim, if you are in not in the insert mode, in this case, for instance, like W would be navigating through the words, right? HJKL would also be like just altering the cursor position. A whole lot of commands. You can, for instance, just delete line by, or not obviously the line, but say delete word, return function, or DD to delete the entire line. But all this so-called Vim key bindings, they are not essentially the commands. They are also like, people are talking about a Vim language, because it also has its own syntax. And from the architectural perspective, I'm not quite sure whether these particular key bindings are actually built on top of the essential original commands derived from add and then turned into X and so on, or not. I'm not sure about this, but well, at the very least, that seems like a reasonable assumption. But anyway, don't really want to make any claims that I'm not aware of how this works in particular. But I just still want to give you an idea that this sort of an internal mechanism of having modes and switching between the modes and observing the process of text editing like being split into several parts. Like first you just find an interesting place, the place that you're about to be making some changes in. Then you do make changes, and then you like do escape, return back. So that is something that you know, it's not really easy to understand for the GUI user. So the GUI user understands like as if he is always in the insert mode, and in the insert mode you just want to do your editings. You use, and I'm now not using HJKL, I'm using the arrow keys just like I usually do, and I just say yes, like return from the function. But if I want to save, like Ctrl-S is not going to work here, and well, it can be done. And there is a GUI text editor called Micro, which allows have exactly the GUI to overfill in regards to text editing. So Micro is always in the insert mode. You can use Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V for copy pasting, Shift and arrow keys for inserting lines. But that's essentially just the GUI editor being ported to the terminal environment. So it's not really the terminal editor. Well, it just renders in the terminal. That's the only thing that relates him to terminal. So I'm not quite sure in regards to the particular reasons. Well, like key bindings, like Ctrl-C on Linux usually like break the execution of the program. So if you press Ctrl-C, you can eventually exit from the program. So to handle those key presses properly, a whole lot of things needs to be done. Then the problems behind the portability. So the Unix philosophy is about sacrificing features for the sake of portability. So that's another reason. But although Vim is ported to all the possible platforms, but anyway, so just want to give you an idea that what you get used to as the GUI text editor user is only an insert mode if we are talking about Vim. And to understand the idea behind this modality, so why do we have modes? So this derives back to when there was no even the visual interface. Again, just to exactly try and explain this historical reasons for, say, the modes and what seemingly what might seem as complications. So that's not because people try to complicate things. That's because of the origins and the backgrounds. The text editors of the past has evolved. So, for instance, if you are dealing with like the add, the one that I used, that I've shown earlier, you don't really, you can't really do simultaneously both editing and say navigation or executing commands, because if you edit, you just input the code. If you are done, you then just invoke print, and you just see what you just edited, what you've just appended or inserted, and that's it. So the nature of the command line itself brought a need to split between these two processes, like editing or insert mode, and the command mode to do whatever with what you've just inserted, like say store it or copy paste or whatever. The very last but not least thing that I promised to show, that probably maybe some of you know, maybe someone don't know, is that we still can use the very original commands from add in Vim to edit text the way that's a really funny way to edit text. So I just want to show you this. So I'm going to, and again, like, yeah, in Vim, so if I press escape, if down below in the left lower corner there is nothing there, we are in command mode, but that's not the command mode of underline X or add. This is the command mode of this visual shell, let's say, of this visual part, where you can do like DD, DW, and so on. So if you really want to enter the true command mode, you need to say shift colon, yeah. And in this case, for instance, if I want to say 83, which is the line, if I just hit enter, probably, yeah, if I just hit enter, it actually brings the cursor. So a very interesting way to navigate. Let's say line number 1, and then go to the very first line. Well, obviously, you can do just like 3 and G, or like 10 and G. This is the normal Vim navigation. You just specify the line, and then the capital G brings you there. But that's, well, again, I'm not sure whether this is the shortcut or not, or maybe this is implemented separately. But originally, how you could have done this, you could have said just, let's say, line number 1, and just hit enter. And probably if equal sign is also working, yeah, equal sign is also working. But yeah, it's not necessarily needed in Vim. And yeah, probably even in add, you just could just add the line number, and that's it. So let's say, oh, it actually does. Oh, in a sec, 10, and yeah, it gives me, it prints me this 10 down below if I use the equal sign. This is really cool. It just gives me the line that where I'm currently at. If I don't specify this, yeah, it actually doesn't. So it just 10 just goes there. So it's very interesting to have these command and visual interface being bundled all together, because if you're using add, and let's say you execute command 10, then nothing is printed onto the screen, and you assume that you are on the line number 10, but you don't really know what in particular is there, so you need to print it, right? But with Vim, since these commands are binded to the visual rendering of the entire buffer in the real mode, whenever I type in the line number, so let's say 11, and I go there, and let's say 13, and I go there, so I can instantly see the changes that has been made, because literally when I do specify the certain line number, let's make it like line number 30, so it already even scrolls automatically for me. So by entering the command, meanwhile being in this sort of visual mode, right, I can only see what my command affects, and in particular this command affects the current line variable that is storing where the cursor is currently at, not the column of the cursor, but just the row of the cursor. But anyway, so yeah, let's say like 23, right? And let's say I want to add something there. Well, obviously, if you just get away from here, you just go to the insert mode, you just can add something, but that's not interesting. Yeah, that's not interesting. So you can do the following way. So you can say line 23, and then you can say, I want to insert, and let's say here is my command. Here is another command, and then I say dot Okay, and bam, I just added lines into the buffer, and I didn't really use the visual tools like usually you can do with Vim. So I just used the bare commands to deal with to like interact with them. But because of this visual capabilities, it just instantly gives me the feedback of what has happened. Now, for instance, I want to delete the lines 23 and 24, so I use exactly the syntax from the add text editor and 23, 24, and I just say, for instance, delete, and yeah, I got them deleted. Now let's try to join the line number 22 to the line 21. So essentially, what am I trying to do now is just go to insert mode. So I just try to do this sort of thing, but via the commands. So if I say 22 join 21, then ban, and did it actually make it correctly? Okay, it's to undo. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, 22 join to 21. So after this file square bracket double quote, this should be. Oh no, it just yeah, I'm sorry guys. It just it does a little bit not what I wanted it to do. Okay, so just undo. So I need to say 21 join the 22. Yeah, and now this goes exactly for what I was trying to have here. Okay, and again, even the things like putting the cursor to the certain position. Well, it's probably, this is not, this is already the pure Vim, or probably it's better to say the pure X fixture. So if I just say the line number 21 and I want to search for this pattern and equals sign. Yeah, no, it just gives me the line just like the add does. It doesn't really put the cursor to where it should be. So yeah, well, I'm not sure, but anyway, so I'm not sure if I can actually split the. Yeah, let's try to split. No, I don't know. I don't know how to do this. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Probably this should be also possible to do the opposite, like bringing these things back here, like okay, and include it. Oh, what have I done? Oh no. okay. I just want to. Oh my god, I just want to escape from here because not to mess the the original file anyway. So yeah, so as you've just seen, the original add commands and the beautiful syntax behind that commands is still available in today's Vim. So that's the Vim version 8 point blah blah blah. I don't remember which one exactly. So it's quite the recent one. No, maybe not the very recent one, but quite the modern one. And I'm not sure whether it works in Neo Vim or not. Also need to check that out, but probably it should. So yeah, so that's the idea. So these are the thoughts. So we have on the very bottom of, let's say, Vim, which is so amazing, right? So feature-rich editor. We have this very basic core that purely interacts via the commands, and we can use Vim's ability to visualize. Vim stands for VI visual, but to visualize the buffer in the real mode. It's really interesting to see how we can use the bare commands from add from back from 70s, and we can still like affect the buffer that way and see how in particular Vim actually updates this in the real mode. So we can see the changes that we just made, and we don't really need to use this print statement. So I personally find this to be very amazing. It's like it's really astonishing. I don't know. I'm just amazed by this. I'm really I don't know. Just like looks like a magic to me. And understanding this particular, I would say, layers, the Vim text editor is built with. So the first layer is this command core. So the core that derives from add goes to add, so that essentially that it allows to print. It allows to print all the it allows to add the text just via the pure command mode. Then there is the sort of intermediate layer, like in between layer, like between the pure commands and the visual editing, is this Vim specific commands like dd, like the line number and the capital G and so on. So again, I'm not sure how this is implemented. If I would have done this, I would have just provided shortcuts for this more high level key bindings, so that they would just invoke the underlying commands. Well, that seems the most natural way of doing things for me, at least. Yeah, and obviously when you're in the completely visual mode, you don't really need all of those commands, because you can just like visually put the cursor somewhere and just make some edits. But again, if we are talking about the productivity, so those fans of Vim that say that you can do much more with Vim, you can be more productive. So the source of this, the source behind this productivity is like if you're doing things visually, this is generally slower, because you need to scroll for a long time, for ages. Yeah, then you just put the cursor. Yeah, so they do, we do invent some key bindings like in the GUI editors, like Control and right arrow key or left arrow key, which essentially does exactly what the W keyword does in Vim, like just skipping to the next word. So we invent this whole lot of things. But again, in the pure command mode, you can just, let's say you have a certain line number, you want to make one exact correction. So you just can accomplish this instead of scrolling through the entire file, putting the cursor there and editing and then going back and saving. You can just print the line number, use the substitute command, use the what particular string to be substituted with with the corrected one, and you just hit enter and you're done already. So doing this via the command is just generally just a faster way. But it's really important to understand that what makes you productive is not the Vim itself, but the underlying philosophy. Well, basically that's the Unix philosophy behind Vim, that gives a very simple idea that using commands is just like using a scripting programming language to automate tasks. But this is the specific domain, the text editing domain, and the tasks are also very specific, so they're specific to making some edits to the text file. So if you do this manually, this is longer. If you do this via the commands, this is faster. And that's the exact reason why you can be more productive, just because you literally write some code to get the job done for you automatically instead of doing this manually by hand. So that's the core idea behind the boosting productivity if you're using Vim. But if you are not used to this sort of approach, if you're not used to commands, if you are not willing to learn the commands, in this case, obviously, this just feels like redundancy, this feels like overcomplications, and why do you need to spend time for learning all this stuff, and so on and so on. So that's the matter of taste, and I'm not really trying to say that you should do this or maybe you should not do this. So it's all up to you. So it's really your choice. What's the preferred way? Depends on a whole lot of things. But just wanted to give a clear understanding, like this roots behind the text editing, like why we have, why Vim does things the way it does, why the GUI editors do things the way they do. And that's pretty much all about it. So yeah, guys, this is from my side. Thanks for watching. I'm sorry for this video was a bit long and boring, but yeah, I really want to share this with you. So thanks for watching. See you later and cheers.